Ainu girls began getting lip tattoos around age 7, and they had to put up with years of cut and soot ink and no anesthesia. It was painful, repetitive, but they were expected to do it before they got married. Japan banned it by 1871, which almost got rid of the tradition. 18-year-old Marilyn Monroe, then known as Norma Jean Dougherty, was photographed while she was living on Catalina Island with her husband, Jim Dougherty. This was in Los Angeles in 1944. Radio Nut. This set has everything needed for getting music and speech. June 1924, Washington, D.C. Leo Tolstoy on Damir, Yasnaya Polyana, 1908. There's a crowd reading news about the D-Day invasion. They're gathered around the Zipper news ticker at One Times Square in New York City, New York, USA, on June 6, 1944. A soldier is welcomed home at Long Beach Airport, marking a joyful reunion at the end of World War II. Long Beach, California, 1945. Punks of Bristol, 1980. Norma Jean in 1945 before she became the famous Marilyn Monroe. Soldiers of the 2nd Regiment of Sikh Infantry, Punjab Frontier Force of the British Indian Army, are in Banu, Northwest Frontier Province around the 1890s. Inez Milholland Boissevin gets ready to lead the suffrage parade. She's wearing a crown in Washington, D.C. on March 3, 1913. A lumberjill, that's a female lumberjack, is hauling chopped wood in rural British Columbia, sometime between the 1870s and the 1890s. Joseph Stalin and Joachim Ribbentrop are signing the Nazi-Soviet Pact in 1939. Gary Cooper's at a New Year's party at Romanoff's in Beverly Hills, California in 1957. He's hugging his daughter Maria and his wife Veronica. January 20th, 1953. On this day, 70 years ago, President Dwight Eisenhower is lassoed by cowboy star Monty Montana while reviewing the inaugural parade. A woman in 1897 is going for a bike ride while wearing pants. Children lived in a shanty town. They were laughing and playing in the 1950s. George Black is playing with sled dog puppies in 1929. Thomas Edison at the Newark Laboratory, 1870. A group of soldiers are playing a game, 1915. Bal Mask. October 1939. There was a masquerade at a Halloween party. It was held at Hillview Cooperative, Osage Farms, Missouri. Abraham Lincoln, born in 1809, was the 16th President of the United States. He led the country through the American Civil War, preserving the Union and ending slavery. Before becoming president, he was a lawyer and served in the Illinois State Legislature and the U.S. House of Representatives. Lincoln is remembered for his honesty, integrity, and his role in shaping American history. He was assassinated in 1865. A dog is holding on to a little boy as he tries to retrieve a ball in a river with his golf club. It's the 1920s. Joseph Tiso, who used to be the president of the Slovak Republic during World War II, is in court, arguing his defense. He claims he doesn't remember anything from when he was president. He was later hanged for war crimes and state treason in 1947. Dancing shoes for a couple? In Prague, people are observing 2 minutes of silence to honor the founder of Czechoslovakia, Tomáš Masaryk, during his funeral in 1937. X-Ray. Ray Weishar, winner of the 100-mile race at Norton, Kansas, October 22, 1914. Time, 2 hours, 1.5 minutes. World record. A protester against the Nazis is being carried away by the police. This happened at the German Bund rally in Madison Square Garden, New York, on the 20th of February, 1939. A Mongolian bride is shown wearing traditional clothes. This was taken in 1913 and is an autochrome. Passengers on a New York City municipal ferry, Staten Island, in 1895. Ernest Hemingway at his typewriter, around 1939. A Colt 38 is carrying a small camera. The camera automatically takes a picture when you pull the trigger. This is in New York, 1938. The last known photos of Michael Rockefeller from 1961. He's pictured with a New Guinean tribe, known for cannibalism. Michael disappeared without a trace during his 1961 New Guinean expedition, and his body was never found. White-only taxis, Georgia, 1962. Aji, a 19th century female lion tamer, often called a lion queen, is posing serenely with 3 large lions inside a circus or menagerie cage. This reflects the era's fascination with daring animal acts. The year is 1899. A young girl is playing with her dog. She's wearing a dress and has her hair in pigtails. The dog appears to be enjoying the game. The Beatles in their teenage years. From left to right, it's George Harrison, who was 14, John Lennon, 17, and Paul McCartney, 15. This was around 1957. A taste of joy. A glimpse into family meals in 1940s Claiborne County, Tennessee. In 1969, a bank teller robbed $215,000 and disappeared, taking on the identity of Thomas Randall for 51 years. On his deathbed in 2021, he told his family who he really was. Hannes de Jong, the 1970 pole-sitting world champion, well, sitting on a pole. Down with Luther and his family. Long live the Pope. War on the Protestant. Go to England. We don't want you. Graffiti on a Protestant church in Figueres, Catalonia, Spain, 1947. Sailors arrive in New York City in 1941. Setter and a young cyclist on a velodrome around 1930. The famous 1965 Mondrian collection by French designer Yves Saint Laurent took an innovative approach to fashion by combining classical Western forms with the aesthetics of modernist fine art. Romanov Grand Duchess Olga is in the uniform of the 3rd Elizaveta Hussars. Her sister Tatiana is in the uniform of the Vosnesensky, or Ascension Lancers. This was around 1911. Uniformed workers with special gear to help them avoid catching the plague. A group of cats wait for the fishermen to come home in Istanbul in the 1970s. All right, let's talk about preparing and printing the New York Times in 1942. The newspaper was put together in a big room. First, there's a composing room. Workers set the type, that is, the letters, for each story. They used machines called linotypes. Then, proofreaders looked over everything to catch mistakes. After that, the stories and headlines got arranged into pages. Next, the pages were made into mats, which are molds of the pages. The mats were then used to create curved printing plates. Finally, the plates were put on huge presses. The presses printed the newspaper on giant rolls of paper, and then the papers were folded and bundled, ready to be delivered. The RMS Mauretania, 1909. March 1940. Pony Show. A ring of people are watching the judging of horses at the San Angelo Fat Stock Show. Many polo ponies are bred and raised in West Texas. A drunken man in a top hat and tails is clinging to a lamppost in London, 1934. During the Great Depression, Central Park was a sight to behold. The park's landscape had changed, featuring several new developments. One of these was a large wading pool, perfect for a refreshing dip. There was also a new section dedicated to formal gardens, a place of beauty and tranquility. In addition, a new zoo was built, adding another attraction for visitors. Firefighters are resting after fighting a subway tunnel fire at West 55th Street and Broadway, 1915. People gather around an unexploded German SC-1000 bomb during the Siege of Leningrad, 1943. A Mohawk warrior attacks Canadian soldiers during the OK Crisis. This happened from July to September 1990. The crisis began when the Canadian government approved the seizure of Mohawk land for a private golf course. A man is standing on the lap of a colossal figure of Ramses in 1856. Miriam, Nana, Jackie, Jean, and Sabrina, they're transsexual women in Paris gathering at Place Blanche in 1959. The children's faces show their emotions at the puppet show when the bad dragon gets killed. This happened in the Tuileries Garden in Paris. in 1963. A police photo from 1952, salvaged from a stash of LAPD crime pictures. The librarian at the Lorain, Ohio Public Library is looking at the 50,000-book chaos after one shelf fell over. The rest fell like dominoes in 1971. Otabenga, a young man of the Mbuti people from the Congo, was exhibited in a human zoo in New York City in 1906. He had been purchased from African slave traders. A melon vendor, wearing traditional Central Asian clothes, is selling his goods at a market in Samarkand, which is in modern-day Uzbekistan, sometime around 1905 to 1915. A Hanover CL3, probably from 1917 or 1918, and someone is waving to the camera while in the air. U.S. Army Sergeant Norwood Dorman mimics the pose of a statue on a memorial for Italian soldiers of World War I while taking a brief rest during the Allied invasion of Sicily, 1943. Oskar Schindler, a Sudeten-German industrialist, is speaking to his Jewish workers in Poland before they move to Czechoslovakia. He's going to make a list of 1,200 Jews and they'll go with him to the new factory. This way, he's saving them from the final solution in 1944. August 1941, Bean Picker, Shawano County, Wisconsin, Our Lady of Legumes. The Brandenburg Gate was hung with Nazi flags in 1936. Americans of Japanese descent, infantrymen of the 442nd Regiment, run for cover as a German artillery shell is about to land outside the building in 1945. An artist's excursion on the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad from 1858. Adolf Hitler is bowling with some of his associates in the basement of the Berghof, Hitler's home, in 1937. The game they were playing was called Kegel, a German variation of 9-pin bowling. Lucille Ball, once called the greatest pair of legs on Broadway, is in a 1930s publicity still as a blonde. British schoolboys are holding discarded syringes from the 1970s. They used to play with them in school all the time because they were like mini water pistols without the needle. These are excerpts from Red Karelia, a Finnish-language communist newspaper. It was run by Finnish communist exiles who fled into the Soviet Union after the Reds lost in the Finnish Civil War. U.S. President Gerald Ford and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger are on a tour of the Finnish icebreaker Urho during the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe. This happened in Helsinki in 1975. Osama bin Laden as a teenager, second from the right, in a green shirt and blue pants, on holiday in Sweden with his family, around 1970. Richard Avedon, a street performer in Palermo, Sicily, 1947. The Panzerkampfwagen Abed Maus, usually called the Mouse, was a German World War II super heavy tank prototype. A French woman is pouring tea for a British soldier. This happened in Normandy in 1944. Stalin, wearing Central Asian clothing, is meeting with some leading kolkhoz workers from Tajikistan in 1935. Abubakar Garbai, the last ruler of the Kanem-Bornu Empire, which is in present-day Nigeria, in 1912. In April of 1902, Garbai became the figurehead monarch of Borno under British suzerainty. A company of Cuban Liberation Army troops deployed in line formation during the War of Independence from 1895 to 1898. There are 3 Ethiopian men saluting an image of Mussolini in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in 1936. Betty Lou Oliver survived a plunge of 75 stories in a lift in the Empire State Building in New York in 1945. (1963) resistance at the Woolworth lunch counter. Mark Twain and Nikola Tesla playing with electricity. The biggest mobile telescope in the world, California, 1933. A United States soldier shakes hands with a dog in Luxembourg during the Battle of the Bulge, 1944. The British fleet is in the Firth of Forth, 1917. Amelia Earhart was born in 1997 in Atchison, Kansas. She disappeared on a flight over the Central Pacific Ocean in 1937. She was attempting to become the first female pilot to complete a circumnavigational flight of the globe. Her plane, a Lockheed Electra, vanished near Howland Island. It's 1963, and wives are saying goodbye to their loved ones in the Navy. Eartha Kitt confronts President Lyndon B. Johnson during a White House lunch about the ongoing Vietnam War. Her career pretty much died for some years after that, on the 18th of January 1968. British Prime Minister Sir Neville Chamberlain is returning from talks with Hitler in Germany. This happened in London in September of 1938. There are flappers posing with a car from the 1920s. Oh, grow up. February 26, 1954. A large group of babies are in high chairs, and they have various adult foods on their trays. A seal puts on a show by balancing a doll before young viewers at a performance of the Krone Circus in Aachen, Germany in 1961. These women are at a vocational school in Florida. They're learning how to work to support the war effort in the 1940s. So, there's this cafe, and in Paris, France, in 1954, a man is balancing a chair on his chin. Soviet women are producing mortar shells at a defense plant near Moscow in 1942. Charlie Bell and his dog, Trixie, from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, 1941. Stephen Hawking marries Jane Wilde in 1965. A waterspout in the Adriatic Sea, November 11, 1944. I haven't any idea, but here's what I know. She always tries to tell a joke at the Royal Variety performance. In 1977, she made a joke about a bottle of champagne. In 1987, her joke was about a TV remote control. She once told a joke about a parrot. 17-year-old Elizabeth Taylor is giving a bath to her Cocker Spaniel, Amy, back in 1949.